What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we've got another one that I think you're really going to want to see. So picture this, a Lamborghini rolling down a California freeway, minding its business in traffic, when suddenly those red and blues light up behind it. The driver? Canadian YouTuber Damon Frier. The officer? Sergeant Gonzalez from Anaheim Police Department. Now here's the thing, we've seen this pattern before, haven't we? Someone's driving something nice, something that turns heads, and suddenly there's a reason to pull them over. Coincidence? Maybe. But I've watched enough of these to know that pretextual stops are real, and luxury vehicles seem to attract a certain kind of attention from law enforcement. We're going to break down this entire encounter together, piece by piece. I want you to watch what happens and ask yourself, was this stop legitimate? Or was this something else entirely? If you love exploring body cam footage just like me, then hit that subscribe button.
Well, we got lights. We got lights. We're sure what he was gonna do, but well, our exit's in a mile. Unfortunately, this guy wants to stop now. Yeah, he just has to get on the freeway. I don't want to test patience. I don't know if you guys know this on the freeway. You don't pull off on the shoulder. You find the first exit pull where it's safe for you and the officer, which in this case will be right here. Turn off the car, he said.
I want air conditioning.
He's mad.
For what?
I don't know. What's he waiting for?
Hello.
Hello, hey. How are you doing?
Good, I'm Sergeant Gonzalez, Anaheim Police.
Nice to meet you.
The reason why I'm stopping you, did you notice I was behind you?
Yeah?
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Okay. I noticed that you were obviously going faster than 65. And then you made an unsafe lane change.
You're kidding me, right?
I'm not. Do you have your license and registration, please?
Yeah. So the whole time I was being passed by the, I don't know, like 20 other cars around us.
Can you speak up? I can't hear you.
I said, so, well, we were being passed that whole time by the 20 other cars around us. That wasn't a concern to you, hey?
Can I have your license and registration?
That's kind of what I thought.
I noticed the license plates, they don't seem like California, or is there a near, where are they from?
So, how is it?
I'll go over there so I can talk to you, man. All right.
How is it in an unsafe lane change?
Okay, so here's the thing. You obviously caught my attention because
I drive a Lamborghini.
You're like, no, not necessarily, because look, I'm a sergeant, and I don't normally pull traffic stops, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So, I noticed, when I looked at my speedometer, I was pacing you, you were like over 80 miles per hour. And the other thing is you're revving your engine, like exhaust loudly.
What, no, that's how the car drives.
So much that when I was on the phone, the officer was like, what is that I was talking to? The other thing is, when you made a change, when you were in the number one lane and you made that left lane change, the vehicle that was behind you had to stop on its brakes.
Well, that happens sometimes.
Well, that's what I'm explaining, the violation.
That's not a violation. Braking because someone's lane changing and signaling is not illegal.
The vehicle behind
the car was speeding.
Apply its brakes.
No, how do you know? How do you know he wasn't speeding? If you're saying I was speeding, then he must have been going even faster.
Speeding. That was an unsafe lane. So where is this license from?
It's from British Columbia, Canada.
All right, so let's break this down. Watch what happens right from the jump. Sergeant Gonzalez pulls over a Lamborghini on a busy California freeway and immediately starts listing off reasons: speeding, unsafe lane change, revving the engine. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but you don't need a law degree to see what's happening here. Pay attention to what Damon says. He points out that 20 other cars were passing them the entire time. 20. And the sergeant didn't care about any of them. But the guy in the Lamborghini, oh, suddenly that's the one we need to pull over. And here's where it gets interesting. The sergeant admits, and this is from his own mouth, he doesn't normally do traffic stops. He's a sergeant. So what made this one so special? The exhaust noise on a freeway full of traffic? Then watch the sergeant accuse Damon of planning this encounter. Planning it? The man got pulled over How do you plan getting stopped by police? That accusation right there tells you everything about the mindset. The officer is already defensive because he knows how this looks. This is what we call a pretextual stop. The Lamborghini caught his attention, and everything else became justification after the fact. That's not policing, that's profiling with extra steps.
How long have you been in the state of California?
4 days.
24 hours
On vacation?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Is the license valid in Canada?
It is.
Is this registration? This is your insurance?
Insurance is the small one. Registration is the big one.
You know what the speed limit is on the freeway?
Yeah, it's 65.
Okay. And how fast do you think you were going?
65.
Okay. All right, wait in the car, okay?
Yeah. Unsafe lane, changed my.
Not sure what he's doing, but he's on his phone. He had to find his ticket book. He said he's a sergeant, so he said he doesn't typically do traffic stops. So we're just hanging out, waiting. Currently in the car, no air conditioning. Kind of warm. It's nice, actually.
Here's the holdup. My dispatcher's saying that your license is suspended.
But it's not suspended. I've had something that was on my license from years ago.
Was it 2019?
Yeah, long time ago. And that it's been cleared up, and it pops up once in a while, but it's all cleared up.
Do you have any documentation indicating same? Because right now our records show that your license is suspended.
What would it be suspended for?
Well, that's what I'm trying to find out.
Like something in your guys' system is like super archaic, and if it shows up, just
Well,
like
I think it's the different countries that's the problem.
Yeah.
Did you have a California ID before?
No.
Okay.
I've never lived here. I've always been a tourist. I had a ticket.
It says also, that's what I'm trying to confirm. It says that you have a California, or no, a non-issued driver's license or something like that. So you never had an ID in California?
No.
It seems to me like this was almost planned.
What was?
This whole like encounter between me and you. Is that accurate?
Do we know each other?
No, but just the way like, it just seems almost like you're trying to bait me into like some social media thing. And I'm smarter than that. I'm just saying like the cameras right away, just the way you're revving your engine, driving, just very unusual. Again, I'm a sergeant and I don't normally pull people over on the freeway, but the way you're driving, I actually thought you couldn't see me or something because I came up very close to you to try to look at your plate and read it.
Okay.
And I couldn't get it because I couldn't recognize it, obviously because it's from Canada.
Okay.
So this seems like it's all like planned by you. Is that accurate?
No, I mean, I don't plan getting pulled over ever.
Right. Did you see me behind you?
Yeah, I saw you.
And you thought I should rev my engine loudly and kind of be almost like driving a sports manner?
Well, I'm driving a sports car, so it sounds like a sports car.
No, I understand that, but it just seemed like, to me, I'm telling you.
Are you a car guy?
And now watch what happens next, because this is where it gets really interesting. So the sergeant runs his information and comes back claiming Damon's license is suspended. Now hold on. Damon immediately knows what's going on here. He explains there was something from 2019 that's been cleared up, and it pops up occasionally because of outdated systems. Here's the thing about cross-border licensing that a lot of people don't realize. When you have a Canadian license and you get flagged in an American system, those databases don't always talk to each other properly. We've seen this play out so many times. Someone from another country gets pulled over and suddenly they're dealing with ghost records from years ago that should have been purged. But watch the sergeant's demeanor here. Instead of saying, okay, let me look into this, he's almost using it as leverage. And then he hits Damon with this accusation that the whole encounter seems planned. Are you kidding me? He's actually suggesting that Damon set this up for social media content. That's not professional concern, that's deflection. The moment a cop can't justify their stop cleanly, they start looking for other explanations. You're baiting me. No, Sergeant, you pulled him over. You initiated this. The camera was already rolling because that's what content creators do. That doesn't make the stop legitimate, and it definitely doesn't explain why your system is showing cleared violations from 5 years ago.
Am I what?
A car guy.
I don't know enough about cars to even say, yeah, I know very minimal not enough to tell you what this even was when I saw it.
So it sounds accurate that you don't know enough about this car to know whether or not I was revving it.
Well, it sounded to me that you were, yeah, it doesn't take even a lower, I guess, torque or a horsepower car, you can tell if someone's revving the engine. Like a Honda Civic, which would be a 4-cylinder, I can tell.
Well, this is a V.
Increases in noise, so that's why I was asking. So let me figure out your license thing, and then we'll go from there, okay?
Yeah, real quick.
Yeah.
So this car has it has a V12 engine. It's not a 4-cylinder.
No,
So it's
I know.
going to be louder.
Like as an example, I understand this is has a lot of horsepower, a lot of torque. My example to you was in my Honda Civic that I used to own that had a 4-cylinder.
Yeah.
I can tell when a car is revving or not.
Right.
Just like you can tell if a V12, V8, or V10, right? Maybe not a Lucid or a Tesla. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not an expert in that either. But
Did your Honda Civic have paddle shifters? Does your Honda Civic?
I'm not going to get into that.
Does your Honda Civic rev match? Do you know what that is? So there's an OEM feature that basically makes sure that when you downshift, it's going to align the RPMs with the engine speed.
Before you go into great detail,
Well, I'm explaining the revving.
I know.
Because you're concerned about it.
I'm telling you when you ask me. So I don't know what your intent was. I know that I have traffic violations that I witnessed. You're obviously not from this area, so I have the ability to give you a warning. I keep in consideration that you're not from the area, but again, and you're here visiting and stuff.
And there it is, right there. The sergeant just admitted he's not a traffic guy. His own words. He doesn't normally pull people over on the freeway. So let me get this straight. You don't typically do traffic stops. You admittedly don't know much about cars, but you're out here confident enough to cite engine revving as a violation. Watch how Frier handles this. He asks a simple question. Do you know what rev matching is? And the sergeant immediately backs off. I'm not going to get into that. Of course you're not, because you don't know. You just told us you can't even identify what kind of car this is when you first saw it. This is what profiling looks like when it's not about race, it's about the vehicle. You see a Lamborghini, you assume the driver must be doing something wrong. The car itself becomes probable cause in the officer's mind. And when you combine that assumption with an officer who admits he lacks expertise in both traffic enforcement and the vehicle he's scrutinizing, that's a recipe for exactly what we're watching. The sergeant's intuition told him something was off, but intuition isn't evidence, and it sounded loud to me isn't a traffic violation when you don't understand the mechanics of what you're hearing. This is why specialized knowledge matters in enforcement, because without it, you're just guessing.
To me, it seemed like this was like, I don't know, maybe it wasn't, but maybe you guys are just ready. But I'm going to tell you this. Your driving and what happened was enough for me to pull you over as I'm on my way to speak to my supervisor about something else. Okay? Now, based on the totality of the circumstances, I'm going to give you a strong verbal warning today, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I did explain the reasons why I stopped you. I'd ask that you keep in mind in traffic, maybe being more cautious when making a lane change. That's part of my warning. And the speed limit is 65. And when I'm behind you and I look at my speedometer and it says more than 65, now I'm not saying I paced you for a great distance or anything like that, but that's an indicator that you're speeding. Does that make sense?
I appreciate you giving me a warning.
All right, hold on a second.
Thanks a lot.
Forever.
Yeah, no worries. Okay.
You may consider if there's any documentation that you can get from Canada, because my dispatcher was reporting that it looks suspended, but I'm not sure.
So what info would he say it looks suspended? Like you're saying it looks suspended.
They were doing like some system called, I think she said Elite, which I've never even heard of. To be honest with you, I'm not a traffic guy.
Yeah.
She goes, so I asked her to confirm, and she goes, yeah, it looks to be that way, and she was trying to do further follow-up and can confirm that.
So we tried it as British Columbia.
There you go.
There you go.
In my group, we tried it as British Columbia, and we got the return.
Does that say valid? start doing further digging.
Status shows normal and valid.
Normal and valid.
Name and DOB. It's showing a class 5 or 6, and I'm Googling to see if I can figure out what a class 5
Motorcycle.
Otherwise, it does say.
Motorcycle, 5 and 6.
Okay, no further need. That confirms he has a valid ID.
And there it is, a verbal warning. After all of that, the speeding accusations, the unsafe lane change claims, the supposedly suspended license drama, we end up with a verbal warning. Now let that sink in for a second. If those violations were real, if they were as serious as the sergeant initially made them sound, why no ticket? Why no citation? You pulled this man over, you ran his information, you questioned him extensively, and the best you can do is be more cautious. Here's what this tells me, and I'm not a lawyer, but I've watched enough of these to know the pattern. This stop was never really about traffic safety. This was curiosity. This was a sergeant who admitted he doesn't do traffic stops seeing a Lamborghini and deciding today was the day to pull one over. And look, I'm glad Damon didn't get a ticket for something that was questionable from the start. But that's exactly the problem. The outcome shouldn't depend on an officer's mood or whether he decides you seem like a nice enough guy. That's not consistency. That's not fairness. That's arbitrary enforcement with a badge. You either violated the law or you didn't. Pick one. Because right now, this whole encounter just proved what we suspected from minute one. The car was the reason for the stop, and everything else was justification after the fact.
From a different country, some officers have a hard time finding that it's valid.
Well, that's why I asked dispatch. That's what they do for.
That's their job, right?
Right. Well, they have an expertise, right? So, yeah, definitely reached out to them because, again, I couldn't even recognize your plate.
Well, you were super cool, man. I didn't set this up. Like, if I was setting this up, I would have done something to really get your attention. I felt I was driving quite normally. I had people still passing me, going even faster, and I honestly lane changed. I signaled. I shoulder checked because this does have a blind spot. And when I came into that lane, that guy was going way faster than I was going if he had to brake.
He did brake. And again, I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to try to cite you. And that's where I was like, okay. When he looked at me, to be honest, he was like, "You gonna do anything about it?" And I'm like, "No."
You're like, okay, this guy allegedly is doing, let's say, over the speed limit. Now this guy's obviously doing even faster than him if he had to brake.
Well, because you're coming out, like, right? So I think what happened is that it's kind of a moot point because I'm not.
It's a moot point, and you gave me a verbal
Let me
warning.
ask you about this.
Yes.
What do you think of Lucid Motors? Have you heard of them?
Oh yeah, electric cars.
I test drove one.
And what are your thoughts?
It's way out of my price range, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was nice. It's fast.
You should get a Lamborghini.
I can't. It's out of my price range too. Of course, I'm not going to go too fast, but I got on it.
You got on it.
bit.
You got on it. My man. Well, it's good to meet you.
Yeah.
You're super cool.
Do you have any questions for me?
I don't.
All right, man. Just keep the things that we talked about. Enjoy your vacation.
Yes, sir.
See you later.
So, look, at the end of the day, the sergeant even asked Frier about Lucid Motors. They're chatting about electric cars, test drives, price ranges. It's friendly, it's cordial, and honestly, that's fine. But let's not lose sight of what just happened here. This man got pulled over in a Lamborghini on a busy California freeway where dozens of cars were doing the exact same thing, or worse. The initial reasons given? Speeding and an unsafe lane change. Then it became about engine revving. Then suddenly his license might be suspended, except it wasn't. Then the sergeant floats this theory that maybe the whole thing was staged for social media. And after all of that, a verbal warning. No ticket, no citation, just enjoy your vacation. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but here's what I know from watching hundreds of these encounters. When the justification keeps shifting and the outcome is a warning, that tells you the stop was never really about the violation. It was about the vehicle. It was about curiosity. And that's the problem, because for every Damon Frier who drives away with a handshake, there's someone else who doesn't get that same energy. So here's my call to action. Document everything. Keep those cameras rolling, because footage like this is how we hold the system accountable. Stay vigilant out there.